Hey, what's up, everyone? We are back for this Saturday slate. So we're going to go over the main slate in this one. We got a nice, a 9-game slate. So let's jump right into it. You can drop a like and subscribe before we get started. NFL season's right around the corner. Still have a few passes left on sale if you want to get in for NFL. You can check out the website, links in description if you want to get in on that. We'll be playing all slates this year for DraftKings and FanDuel. At pitcher, we have a couple of options today, a couple of really good options. Jacob deGrom is your most expensive pitcher at 11.6, and then Abreu is much cheaper than deGrom, but he gets a much tougher matchup against the Braves. He also he's been good this season and he goes pretty deep, but the Braves don't strike out that much, so I'd rather go up to deGrom if I'm paying up. Don't have that much interest in Abreu. It's supposed to be like 100 degrees in Texas. With the other pitchers that we have, I think he's a fade. Lamet's a decent option in GPP. He's a little too expensive on DraftKings, I think. And the way the Phillies have been swinging the bat against since Charlie Manuel's been back as a hitting coach, I think it's a little risky at a $9,400 price. I like Marquez a lot at $8,800. And then not going to have that much interest in this mid-range here. I love Eflin at $6,900. If he's going to go pretty deep into the game, we don't know. He's been a reliever for a while, so we don't know how deep he's going to go. So I guess that's a little risky if he only goes 50 to 70 pitches. So unless we get an official word out, I think it's tough to play him. I think Logan Webb is a good option here at just $5,800. He was great in AAA. He was great in AA. He had a 1.92 ERA in AA, and then in AAA he was solid as well so far this season. So I think he's a good option here against this Diamondbacks team, especially if this roof is closed in Arizona. And then don't have any interest here except maybe Taylor Clark as a punt play. Just cross your fingers with him because you never know what you're going to get. But start off with Jacob deGrom. He is the best option here at 11.6, facing this Royals team that can definitely strike out a decent amount. They don't have very good hitters in the lineup besides a few. They have 3 good hitters and the rest should be in AAA. But deGrom has been excellent all season, super consistent. The Mets need a win here coming off of a loss. I think deGrom is going to step up and give them a gem. He has that monster upside in the 30s. At 11.6, he's by far the best pitcher on the board, given the matchup. And then I'll take a chance here at $5,800 for Logan Webb. I mean, when you have Wojciechowski priced above him, $5,800 is a pretty nice price for a pitcher that can go deep. He did go 7 innings in his last start in AAA. The Diamondbacks are an okay offense, but Webb has some good strikeout stuff. He was striking out over 25%, around 25% in AAA. Even if he goes 5-6 innings, I think he can provide value at this price tag. So rock with him as an SP2. Gives you about 4,000 left for your hitters, which is what I kind of like. First base here. For hitting today, there's a couple of teams I really like. I like the Twins are probably the top stack facing Guardo in Texas, given the heat. Love the Twins. I think the White Sox are a really sneaky stack facing Suarez. Suarez has been terrible all season, especially against righties, and the White Sox can give you a nice, powerful right-handed mini stack with Abreu, Anderson, Jimenez, and even a catcher, McCann or Castillo. Both have tons of power against lefties. Suarez has given up 15 home runs in just 49 innings, and he's been terrible to righties if you look at it here. Suarez has been getting murdered against right-handed hitters, and this White Sox team is pretty righty-heavy. 633 slugging given up and a 354 average. He's been terrible at home, been terrible on the road. 5.71 xFIP. Only has a 17% strikeout rate to righties. And gives up a ton of hard hits, 45%. I like the White Sox a little bit. They'll definitely be sneaky for GPPs. I think a couple of the Brewers are insanely cheap. We'll talk about them. And then those are my top 2. And then maybe Coors. I think you can look at the Rockies. Don't have interest in the Marlins. And that's kind of it. That's where I'm looking in the Dodgers, too, against Foltzy. Can definitely give up some bombs. All right, so let's start it off here at first base with Jose Abreu. Abreu's at a nice price tag here of $4,600, facing a lefty who is beyond terrible this season. Just showed you the numbers for Suarez against righties. Abreu has been always smashing lefties. for his career, and this season is no different. Abreu has an impressive .346 batting average against lefties with 8 bombs. He has a .262 ISO, just a 17% strikeout rate to left-handed pitching. Only a 28% fly ball rate, but about a 38% hard hit rate, and we know he can definitely hit some home runs against lefties. For his career, .308 average against lefties with 44 home runs, and a very impressive .243 ISO, so tons of power for Abreu. Been hitting the ball well. I think it's a good spot for him given how bad Suarez is, and Suarez is basically a 2-pitch pitcher. If you look here, I can show you it on Plate IQ. Plate IQ here. Suarez giving up a .279 ISO to righties, just like I said, 18% strikeout rate. Basically a 2-pitch pitcher, and then you get the occasional curve. Very easy for an offense to just guess right. You get a 50-50 shot. Abreu, decent power, 170 ISO against the fastball, and then throws his changeup a ton, and Abreu mashes the changeup with like 340 ISO. So another reason why I love Abreu. And then, like I said, a couple of the Brewers are insanely cheap. And if you look at their lineup, I don't know why they're so cheap, but you get Eric Thames at $3,700. You got Hero at a decent price tag, $43. But the ones that stick out to me, the two that stick out a ton, are Mike Moustakas at just $3,600, and Trent Grisham at $2,900, and even Lorenzo Cain at just $3,300. I don't know why the Brewers are so cheap. The matchup isn't terrible against Sanchez, and I'll definitely rock with a couple of them, especially if they're not gonna be owned and they're gonna be this cheap. Moustakas all season he's been over 4,000, been in the mid 4,000s, been even over 5,000 a couple days. Get him at there's 3,600 in a matchup like this going into Washington. It's a good hitter's park. He's not been great as of late, but he still has a ton of power. And he can capitalize here with the matchup against Sanchez, who is a decent pitcher but can definitely give up some home runs and some hits and stuff. Just too cheap for Moustakas, who has a ton of power on the season. Against righties, he's batting .255, but he has 18 home runs. He's actually been better on the road a little bit. The batting average, a .252 ISO for him. Just hits the ball well, 44% hard hit rate and a 47% fly ball rate. It's a good park for lefties, and it's not like he's been terrible in August. He's batting in the 250s so far. Just too cheap for Moustakas. Rock with him. At shortstop, I love I was in the outfield. I'm going to go with Max Kepler here. Kepler's at $5,100. Hopefully that home run that he hit yesterday gets him going. He was in a little bit of a cold streak, but the matchup is so good here against Eduardo, who doesn't strike people out. Well, doesn't get that many swinging strikes. He has a decent strikeout rate. But the Twins don't strike out that much as a team. It's a great hitter's park. Obviously one of the best home run parks in MLB, especially with the weather that we're expecting today. The Twins have so much power up and down their lineup. I think they make for a great stack here. So far this season, he's given up 15 home runs. Lefties have hit him not as well as righties, but the xFIP is much worse to lefties at a 5.49. Kepler is so much power with him. He's given up a ton of hard hits, though. 43% to righties, 47% to lefties. The fly ball rate's higher for lefties. So I like that fact for Kepler, and just has so much power. So I think he can come through today. And then the other cheap Brewer that stuck out was Trent Grisham. He bats leadoff for this team a lot of the time when they're facing righties, if that's the case. And seems like a cash game lock at the $2,900 price tag, and even a tough fade in GPPs. So cheap. He was a great hitter in AAA, so that's why he is, batting leadoff and has some pedigree as a prospect. 381 he hit in AAA with 13 home runs in just 34 games, so a ton of power. Tough not to like him at a $2,900 price tag. Just too cheap. So that's what I like for today. Going with the Twins, I think the White Sox are going to have a chance to do some damage here against Suarez. I like the Angels as well against Hector Santiago. Didn't talk about them, but Trout's obviously a top play of the slate. I like Upton, even though he's not been great against lefties this year. Just feel like you can, at a 4K price tag, you can take Santiago deep. And I think Fletcher is only 3,400, so those are a couple of the top plays on the Angels. And then the bottom half of their lineup is pretty ugly, so I like to stack the top half of the Angels lineup. The bottom half, you're getting into like the Matt Tice, getting to like Tice, Rengifo. So not a ton of appealing options at the bottom of the lineup, so just stack up the top. If you're going to be stacking the Angels, that's what I recommend. And that's kind of it. Don't have interest in really any other team. I think the Red Sox will probably get some ownership. I will gladly not be on that given the other teams we have on the slate, especially if they become ultra chalk. But Wojciechowski shut them down once. Maybe they can rebound against him this time, but just a little tough, especially with the way the Red Sox season has been going. They're pretty much out of the playoff race. All right, so that's what I like. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it, and good luck.